Oh, the weather outside is frightful.
Started some analytics last night, so then my high-end radio, has battery power. It still had battery power. Figured, it's been 6 months since I charged, and also my power went out a few days ago. So they were also, and I had my music on. It was out for like an hour and a half. My battery kind of, like it was at like 2 out of 3 bars, which to me is about like where I'm at, a little bit of discharge state. The gauge on it is pretty accurate. Like it doesn't like say, oh, it's at 2 bars. Like it'll say 2 bars, uh, bars. Some of my cheaper radios, whenever it's 3 out of 4 bars not chargeable, it's actually completely 20 to 10% before it starts showing. While Sanjin is actually closer to 60 to 70% of the battery remaining. So it actually, it's like, it actually takes
Okay. Do
it
that.
actually knows what battery you have in the system. You basically input in the menu the capacity, and it'll actually gauge if you have a metal hydride or alkaline battery in it. And then you just put in the capacity of the battery, and then give these batteries, and it will have better gauge calibrated off of that. So then if it's so then it's like a lot more accurate than like a radio. It's like, oh, I've used about 500 milliamps, so we're gonna set the battery drop here. The battery has dropped faster than that. It might then it will go down
I'm launching the
more.
game.
Loading, loading.
Loading.
An error occurred while loading. What would you like to do about the error?
Try again.
Unable to try again. You are not connected to the internet. You're like, oh, come on. Oh no, the repeat server may be 8:30, 10:30 a.m.
We're also gonna get less frames in Super People than other games you play, because this game favors NVIDIA more. That's why when you launch a game, it says NVIDIA.
Updating. Of course it has to. Why wouldn't? Of course it also has to take its sweet ass time too. Don't you enjoy when it takes its sweet ass time?
Mm-hmm. All that. Audio's good. That.
You know it's needed.
What?
This is basically me waiting on this
Waiting.
thing.
People probably joining the stream like, what the hell?
Even the Jeopardy theme song, it's technically not copyright because it's a
But it's
common
and
common.
it's probably on a song not to make money, because they probably make money. They probably make more money off the show than the song playing on the show.
Yeah, the Jeopardy music can't.
Well, technically, you can copy edited versions, and
Yeah.
but you'd have to rename the song and everything, and file like legal paperwork, which is just a pain in the ass.
Mhm. Yeah. Usually it's.
If Jeopardy wanted to make more money, it would be smart to do that, but it
I've never
requires more
had.
time.
I've actually never had issues with copyright with the Jeopardy theme song.
Me though.
So.
Next you know, people just spam the buffering icon logo.
Uh-huh. Now it's blank. Loading. Hmm. It looks like an SSD was not detected. You may not be able to play the game.
That doesn't make any sense.
I was able to play the game just fine without an SSD before.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you being a devious fiend?
If I'm making enough money, you know what I'd probably do?
Forever to low. That's
Depending on how much time I have in my day, I would just make a gaming PC and then have an editing PC separate. Because, yeah, you can make an all-in-one system for gaming and editing, but it would still take longer to edit than if you had a PC strictly for editing. So my gaming and streaming PC, I'll custom build. But then the editing PC, because videos might, if the videos are more successful than the streams, in some random circumstance, uh, then I'd probably get like a CyberPower one, just so if something breaks, I can just return it instead of having to find out each warranty from each manufacturer. That's why even like Shroud, he could make a custom PC, but he works so much that he probably doesn't even have the time to spend. Well, he has the time, but he doesn't want to spend the time spending 5+ hours building a computer.
And then if it breaks, he doesn't want to spend 2 to 3 hours.
But if you just stream for like 6 to 12 hours daily, it's kind of harder to do that. And it's a sponsor, so he's like, I get paid to have a PC, so you might as well, right? Assuming it's not complete shit.
Did you know that this game is intended for audiences that are 18 or over?
Which is weird because like Apex and stuff don't tell you that. 18 18 or over. That means it's higher than rated M. Because rated M is usually 17 or older. Right?
This says for mature audiences 18 or over.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure rated M for mature is 17 or older for games.
Rated M is. Let's see.
Because when I went to GameStop when I was 17, they're like, are you sure you're at least 17? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they change the rating
There are-
standard.
Here, M is 16 plus, and then they have AO, which is 18 plus. So they classify mature as at 16 or over.
Yeah, I think it's 16 auto, but I think if you bought it in GameStop based on your state, they count as 17 auto. But our games to be 18 or over this. Unless it's because when the full game comes out, they expect it to be 18 or over, but right now it's not considered that.
Hmm.
Do 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 do. Mm-mm-mm. Accept.
Wow, they actually got the duo servers back running.
Say that now, and then it's like, sorry, but you can't do that.
Hmm.
Oh no, we need a thumbnail.
Oh, okay.
Because that's needed. Super P.
Super pop.
Why didn't you create, next thing you know, why didn't you create your own thumbnail? I will once I learn how to do that. And I just don't care. Well, I don't. Well, some of these are sus, so I might have to just turn off display capture until I find what's, maybe a sus thumbnail, but not so much that like people are like what.
Hmm.
Not just that, if I showed the thing on stream, then they won't see that they won't have to refresh the page and see, oh, the thumbnail is different. Basically, I don't want to spoil the thumbnail. Save, edit, one thing. Also Valentine.
Oh.
Content. That.
User in your channel timed out.
Loading.
Huh? When it still when it still says my connection's crap.
Your connection failed. Would you like to try again?
Hmm. You definitely need to do that.
Okay. Display capture. Display capture is gonna make the frame rate worse than capturing the game when you are playing a game. But game capture always bugs out more, and if I go to a different, like, show a different thing on my, like, if I play a different game, every single game I play, I have to go into OBS constantly, click game capture, and then sync it, which just takes so much extra time. And what's worse is sometimes I forget to do that, and then I'm like, why is the gameplay not showing? Like, I'll remember to do that at the last moment.
Okay.
1 eternity later.
2,000 years later.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and had to hire a new one.
So much later that the new narrator got
Do 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 do
the
do.
newer one.
It's okay. You'll load in 50,000 years. It takes 50,000 years for you to load in.
The game will begin
Pretty
shortly.
much. It takes about a minute because I don't have an SSD right now.
Could also because your internet. Because I used to not have an SSD in my very old system, and games in it close to a minute, but not a minute exactly, unless it's like GTA.
Especially if I went on my cellular, even though it's a higher ping, it probably still would load a little quicker because it's more bandwidth.
Well, I feel like your
No,
pain has
higher.
more to do when you're actually in the game versus launching the game. Unless your pain is so high that when your speed goes up and down, if your speed goes up and down and there's too much, your pain's too high, the time when your internet speed increases would take longer. So you're not, therefore, even if you have a high speed internet, you're not maintaining the high speed because it takes forever to get to the high speed.
I'm still loading.
I've been loaded in like half a second. It seems like. So you're not even in the helicopter yet?
I can hear the helicopter. I'm just not loaded.
So that means if I jump too early or the game forces me to jump, you might not be able to land where I'm at because I'll be on the ground more likely before you.
And my game crashed.
Well, that also explains a lot. When your game gotta crash, it's like we didn't even make it to the ground and the game crashes.
It says out of video RAM.
What do you mean? It's a game. I don't think the game's that intensive.
I have my settings on the lowest, and I ran out of VRAM. What?
Well, if you had enough system RAM, it could use some of your system RAM as VRAM. It'd be very delayed with your speed because it has to go detect it and find it. Yeah, instead of taking it right off your GPU. Well, I died anyways, so before I even found a weapon. I found a building, and saw a weapon there, and then I died.
Aloha.
Aloha, miha! Silence having connection issues.
Not connection issues, but a game issue.
Well, to be honest, if it takes you like 5 minutes to load into a game, even if you don't have an SSD and it's not GTA, then it's more likely internet issues, not just the game. Because even a standard hard drive runs like 50-60 megabits a second. If you have like a Seagate one.
Y'all have issues, right? Yep. Let's see. an internet. Like I'm literally gonna set everything to stereo and turn off image sharp just to load this game.
That's why.
That's why.
Minimum requirement. Obviously not 100% accurate, but minimum requirement for super people. 2048 megabytes of RAM, so over 2 gigabytes of RAM, and you only have 4 gigabytes. So you must be using the other, like, well, less than 2 because it's using over 2 for something else. Like, if you had nothing else running, VRAM, pretty much, almost nothing running VRAM, you still should be able to play it. Won't be optimal, but you should still be able to play it without it telling you you ran out of VRAM. But that's the minimum it uses, which means if the minimum is 2 gigabytes and not less than a gigabyte, there's a chance it could use up to 3 or 4. Like some of the new Call of Duty games, the minimum recommended is 3 gigabytes, but there's times where it will use up to like 7 in rare situations. I forgot to click ready. Where are you even in?
Still loading.
Nice. Even though it shows that you're in my lobby. One eternity later.
That, turn that to very low. And then that. And then turn that to 10.
Post-processing is good, but I've noticed I'm using less VRAM when I have it at medium to low than if I had it high. Actually, when I look at post-processing, it doesn't show that it makes a difference. But when I actually go to TaskManager and look at my VRAM usage, it does make a difference. So in the game where it says your VRAM usage, it says it doesn't make a difference. But in my task manager, it says it does. Oh, it does. It's just a very small amount.
What the hell?
What?
5 gigs. Interesting. I turned settings off and it is using even more RAM.
Well, that's because not every setting you turn off actually benefits you. A lot of people would just turn settings off without knowing what they do. Some settings, if you turn them off, you actually use more resources. Yeah, for it says other app, meaning my stream is using 515 megabytes of VRAM, but that's nothing when I have 8. But then the game's using. People don't realize that, like, you can't just turn off. Like, you have to know what the setting fucking is. You know how much VRAM I'm using in Super People right now?
How much?
1,714 megabytes. So, like, 1.7 gigabytes. So, I'm pretty sure you should be okay if you have a 4 gig card. 1,100 is not even a gig. Oh, yeah, so I'm using less than a gig. So, if you. But it says I could use up to 7.3. So clearly you either have something messed up in your Radeon settings, or you have something running in the background using VRAM.
Or he doesn't have enough VRAM or enough system RAM.
Uh-huh. But if you're using literally less than a gig of VRAM, you should be able to run the game at 4 gigs of VRAM.
Did you update your GPU drive? Because there was another one out today. I like how there was one out yesterday and one out today.
Mm-hmm.
That could also be why. It says ultra settings for post-processing only work optimal with SSDs. So that means the post-processing graphic setting is somehow benefiting from an SSD if you have it like closer to ultra. So maybe like the RAM on an SSD, if you had an SSD with RAM on it, is benefiting the post processing when you increase it higher.
Yeah.
Which is weird because SSD has nothing to do with graphics.
Yeah.
Is it still loading?
No.
Oh.
Verify its file. If that doesn't work, restart your computer. That doesn't work, disconnect your computer from the
If that still doesn't work, go in Task Manager and double check you don't have something. Because a lot of people have shit running in the background and they don't even know. But seriously, you're literally using less than a gig of VRAM to run the game at lowest settings at 1080. Well, I'm actually using less than a gig because I'm running on the 1080. But I'm not running much less under 1080. So it's not that big of a difference. So like even one monitor probably uses less than half a gig of VRAM depending on your monitor. If you don't count the game. Right? If you just count the monitor and idle, or just the fact that it's a monitor. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, post-processing seems only good if you have a good CPU and a good SSD.
Well, I do too, but I want to save a little more resources for my stream, so I toned it kind of low.
No, but like, yeah, the basic, it depends.
Not just that, I don't really see the quality difference.
Well, it's not because it's not a quality setting.
Yeah, it does. It says makes image sharpening better and enhance quality effects. It really says that in the description.
And set it below, but that has nothing to do with the game booting.
Yes, but for some reason it says if you had it at Ultra, it still has to do with your SSD for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, but that's nothing to do with game booting, because you can boot a game at max settings on a shitty computer.
Yeah, basically, if someone does have an SSD, I mean a hard drive, yeah, I don't recommend it, but if you're gonna have one, have a good hard drive.
But what I mean is,
think about it this way. Because a hard drive is usually so much cheaper, not always, but sometimes a lot of times it's cheaper than an SSD. So, because it's cheaper than an SSD, usually you could get, like, as an example, why get a Western Digital hard drive when you can get a Seagate that's faster than Western Digital? You're already saving money by not using an SSD, so you might as well put the extra money you save towards the speed of that hard drive.
Yeah, but your drive doesn't prevent you from booting. It just makes it take long.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't preventing to booting until after he joined. So basically, it was taking a while, and then he said he didn't have enough VRAM. But there's no way you are playing at 1080p and using 100% of your VRAM in a game that barely even uses a gig of VRAM.
That doesn't make any sense because if
I was like, what?
if you have system RAM, it uses system RAM. Your PC doesn't break.
But that's not what I'm saying.
If you don't have enough VRAM.
What I'm saying, well, no shit. But it shouldn't even have to use a system RAM because he has enough VRAM.
That's not what I'm saying. So, you're getting this information that says it's because of a VRAM issue, because that's not accurate at all.
But why is it telling him a VRAM issue if he has enough VRAM? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
You know, do what basic people do. Close the shit in the background, restart your computer, scan your system for updates, check the integrity files of the game. Just command prompt if you need it. Like, that's just like basic common shit that people should just know how to do.
But I also can't relate to your issue because most games I play, I'm basically have enough VRAM. Like, out of even 5, 6 years ago, when I first started getting into PC gaming, I still had enough VM for basically every game. Now, I had VM to play every game, but to get the higher FPS, well, not FPS, but to run more things in the background, I wanted to increase the VRAM.
Yeah, but
No.
what people don't understand is the only way to physically run out of VM is if you have, like, if you don't have enough system RAM for your Windows, and then you don't have enough VRAM. If Windows 10 uses 3 gigs of system RAM, and you only
Well, yeah,
you have
but
4
also
gigs
the
of
idea is
system,
to try to not get it to use your system RAM because then the graphics card is slower. That's the whole point. Your graphics card has VRAM,
That's
so
not
it can
what I'm
use its
saying.
own.
What I'm saying is your PC's not gonna break, your game's not gonna prevent itself from booting if you run out of VRAM. That's not how VRAM works.
I didn't say it was. I'm just saying it shouldn't tell him he doesn't have enough system RAM or VRAM to run a game through graphics if he's not even using close to half his VRAM.
Or it probably might not even be a VRAM issue. It might just be like a
What?
require.
But then why would it tell you that?
Because some games put in requirements in their code. They have
The game will
ways to
begin
detect your GPU, and if you don't meet that minimum requirement, it will prevent you from booting it.
Well, yeah, but he does meet the requirement.
Yeah, and this time it's actually working.
Then again, you're playing a game that is, you know,
And
kind of new.
early access.
Basically, you know that setting that we turn on for Apex? The image sharpening one? I turned that off and it got the game to do.
Yeah, so it's probably not even your VRAM. It's probably you have something wrong with your graphics card communicating with your
You don't
Radeon
realize
software.
You probably because you don't have enough system RAM, so it can't get enough system RAM because it's using the system RAM for something else. That's why you shouldn't get 12 gigs of system RAM because then you can't boot things.
Minimum 16.
Basically, if you don't have enough VRAM to boot the thing.
Minimum for VRAM if you're playing lighter weight games, 6 gigs.
Then it will start using
At 1080.
system RAM.
Minimum
But
for
if you
1440p, 8
don't
gigs.
put system RAM towards your computer, then it has no system RAM.
Minimum
today.
I recommend at least.
So therefore, you know, why do you think I tell people to get an 8 gig VRAM and get 16 gigs of system RAM and call it a day? That's it.
Yeah, there used to be a time where 6 gigs VM was minimum for 1080. I recommend 6 gigs for minimum for 720 nowadays.
Or even if you have low amounts of VRAM, it would make more sense to have 4 gigs of VRAM with the 16 gig system RAM. Because then if you run low on VRAM, Windows can use your system RAM as backup to allow stuff to boot.
I'm still trying to get an idea of like the map areas and stuff. So sorry if I end up jumping in a bad area.
Stupid. If people always complain, oh, I can't boot this game because I don't have enough VRAM or whatever. It's like, okay, get more system RAM.
We're coastal landing right where we're at.
I have 32 gigs of system RAM on my computer, meaning, you know, if I went low on VRAM, I can use up to 16.
Yeah, the only difference is your graphics might.
You might lose frames.
You might lose frames because it's delayed when it uses your system RAM than if it used its own VRAM. Because that's kind of the point of VRAM, to reduce the delay of, having RAM to use for graphics. Basically, your graphics card knows where the system RAM is, but because it has to take it from your system RAM instead of the RAM that's on it, it's slightly delayed. Are you getting shot?
Yeah, there's a person right there.
And I don't even have a weapon.
I actually tried to get a weapon and died.
I was like, oh, maybe if I move where a building's at, I don't think silence that far, and then I realized I didn't see how the map was. But again, the minimum requirement for this game is, I think, 2 gigs. So even if you had 4, as long as you're running the minimum and not going over 2 gigs, you technically can run it.
Well, not really, because if there's a system based off system RAM, you can't have a OS.
I'm not talking about system RAM.
Even like VRAM and stuff.
Well, yeah.
The reason they say 3 gigs of system RAM is, or 3 gigs for like the requirement, right?
They don't. They say. Well, didn't you say 2,000 megabytes is less than a gig?
No, I said 1,000 is less than it. 1,100 is less than a gig.
Yeah, the minimum requirement is 2,048 megabytes.
Which is only 2 gigs.
No, it's 48 megabytes above 2 gigs.
No, 2,048 is 2 gigs.
No, it's above 2 gigs because there's an extra number in there.
What's the extra number?
48. It's 2,000 0 and then 48.
Yeah, 2,048 is equivalent to 2 gigs.
It's higher than 2 gigs because you have an extra 48 megabytes.
No, that's not how it works. 1,024 is 1 megabyte. 1,024
When
times
Bunny
2.
wants to play Apex,
Well, we might as well play that because some reason Apex is more intensive, but you can play that. That doesn't make any sense.
It's also a fucking new
But it doesn't matter. It's still more intensive.
Yeah, but it's more developed.
Yeah, but it's more intensive.
But even if it's more intensive, games that are